Flashbacks. Past players, past legends.
And tonight we're privileged to have Sir Anthony Harvey on board with us. 4 games for St Kilda and a goal in 94. Then recruited the parade, 95 to 2002, 122 games, 105 goals. Norwood captain at 98 to 2001. Of course, acting captain of the 97 premiership side. Best and fairest 98. Foss Williams medal 99. Advertiser team of the year 97, 98, 99. A couple of state games. Welcome aboard, Harves.
Thanks for having us, guys. Great to be here.
Thank you, mate. We like to go back to where it all began. Where did you play some of your junior football and where did you grow up, mate?
Yeah, I grew up originally in Victoria. I'm from, my home club is Seaford, which is in the Mornington Peninsula Footy League. I guess it's a bit like Elizabeth over here, which is the gateway to the Barossa. So Seaford is a gateway to the Mornington Peninsula, just next to Frankston. So, yeah, that was where it all started for me. Played all my juniors there, right through from under 9s through to under 17s.
And did you represent a little bit as your junior for that area?
I played some interleague as a junior. I didn't play a lot of rep games because my mum wouldn't let me because I was a bit small. So, yeah, so I was a very late developer. So I was always the smallest in the team. Always held the footy in the team photos down the front. So,
I reckon your colt mightn't have changed from that position yet either, Halves. And I can remember sitting with a game with you watching, and I reckon there was a nervous mum watching that day, actually. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have my parents were very supportive and hardly missed any of my games. Even, they'd be over every 3 or 4 weeks, driving over from Melbourne to watch me play at Norwood.
Yeah, no, quite often had a chat to your dad and that, and he got a bit shitty with me one night because Robert had got injured and then you got injured, and I said, Jesus, they don't have to go out with sympathy, these two with bloody injuries, the same injury because it was incredible how that seemed to follow you two at one stage.
Yeah, followed me a bit more, unfortunately.
Yes.
So he sort of got away with a few more games than me.
Yeah, just a couple.
Speaking of Robert, obviously growing up, you boys would have been pretty competitive and doing a bit of research that cricket was obviously in the family, and whether you both were playing a bit of backyard cricket and backyard footy back in the day.
Of course, with your grandfather being Merv and your granduncle, of course, the famous Neil Harvey. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess the footy was in our blood. The cricket was in our blood. We grew up cricket in the summer and footy in the winter. And my dad was a reasonable cricketer. He played a lot of grade cricket and captain coached grade cricket in.
Did you nearly go to the cricket way, Halves, or not?
No, me, I didn't. Rob did.
That's what I was trying to remember there. Yeah. I was sure one of you nearly went that way, yeah.
Yeah, I was just a gritty little opening batsman, wicket-keeper. So
I knew you were a keeper.
I could hang around a long time, but I didn't make a lot of runs. So, cricket was a great love of cricket, but, I was never going to go down the cricket path. And even I never thought I'd go down the footy path because, I was very small. Even as a late teen, I copped a lot of knocks and it was easily thrown around. So I never thought I'd, go as far as I did in footy.
Did you guys have a couple of big tussles in the backyard that you might let us in on?
He's 18 months older than me. So and he developed quite early actually. Well, to be able to play in the AFL at 16 back then, he was a fair bit bigger than I was, so I was on the rough end of the stick a lot. So, and being the youngest of 3 boys, my oldest brother Steve, he's another 18 months older than Rob. So, I was on the rough end of a lot of it.
Of course, you were at Frankston, and eventually getting out to St Kilda. Fill us in how that all developed, Halves.
Yeah. So I actually went in between there. I went to St Kilda in the under-19s.
Right.
So, and like I said, I was very small. I remember going into the gym at St Kilda and all these guys were lifting big weights, and they had to like pull out the baby weights for me. So so it was a bit daunting. Yeah, and I thought I wouldn't make the under-19 team, but I actually did make the list, but didn't get a game for the first 6 or 8 games. And I remember one Friday night, the phone rang at home, and it was the coach for the under-19 saying, "Can you get to the airport in an hour?" And I asked Mum, and she said, "Yeah, I can get you there," because someone had pulled out to the game to Sydney. They play back in those days. The under-19s played against the Sydney Swans. So
That's right. Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, great, I get a free trip to Sydney. I've never been on a plane before, so
That's all right.
yeah. So Mum rushed me out to the airport and flew up to Sydney and played. Sat on the bench for the first quarter. And then come on and did pretty well in the midfield and had a lot of it. And we got beat by a lot. I think it was 15 goals or something. But, yeah, that game sort of entrenched me in the team for the rest of the season. So and that was the first game that I sort of kick-started my footy career, I guess.
Who was coaching at the time?
At St Kilda in the 19s?
Yeah. I know it's probably asking a lot to try and remember.
Yeah, my memories, Gary Colling, he was a great St Kilda player, actually.
He's pretty hard at it. Yeah, I remember him. Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty rugged on baller. Yep.
Yeah. So we actually remember getting kicked off Moorabbin Oval a lot because of the seniors coming out, and Peter Hudson was a footy manager, I think, at the time, and he used to come and kick us off the oval. So, yeah, it was just an honour just to be amongst those people.
I thought you were going to say they kicked you off the oval to put the sprinklers on, because
they were good at that.
They were very good at that.
Yeah. They didn't need the sprinklers at Moorabbin. There was enough mud
anyway.
and water on that oval anyway. Yeah.
Okay, Harvey, it's going to be a bit harder, this one, to comment on. So you've gone through, and who was your VFL debut? Your debut against AFL debut, mate.
All right. Yeah. So then after getting drafted, I was on a sup list at St Kilda for 6 months before I got into the June draft that year. It was the last June draft,
right?
I think in the 90s. So Ken Sheldon was my coach originally.
He could fire up.
Yeah. I've seen him fire up a couple of times, but never with me, which was a plus. So
it was the famous Craig Davenport was the one. Was the one with Ken Sheldon where he blasted him over the fence, and so that got a bit of publicity.
So it was. I got on really well with Ken, and then in the years to come, he came over and coached South Adelaide over here. So I caught up with him a fair bit. So, and he's a great family friend. So great guy.
So now you played 4 games. You only played 1 win against Fitzroy, but your last game, you played against Geelong, who played in the grand final. You had 23, got a goal. What were you? And knowing you, they wouldn't have been 23. Hurry kicked. You used the ball. Your use of the ball was always pretty good. So, how did you feel after that? And then to end up not going on, and I think you're a bit unlucky too. I think you get compared, as is customary with anyone, with their brother and having the famous brother, etc. In that way, probably didn't. Well, you're not going to say it. I think that hurt you. So personally.
Yes and no. I think it did give me a look in.
Yeah.
So people saw the name and noticed, but then I think once I was there, I sort of made a name for myself.
Yep.
And I was confident enough to think I could play at that level. So, that Geelong game was, I thought I did do okay. The funny thing was I think we were 5 goals up at 3/4 time down at Cardinia Park, and Gary Ablett Senior had hardly had a kick up till then. And, of course, he would have come back in the last quarter and kicked, I think, 3 or 4 goals and win the game for him. They won by 3 points. So I guess there had to be someone that had to leave the team. But I guess the worst thing about it was there was only one change that week, and it was Harvey for Harvey. I got dropped for my brother. He was coming back from a hamstring injury. So
He's a bit of the Steve War, Mark War, Mark War move.
yeah. Mum wasn't too happy. I know that.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine your mum in that one. Yes.
Was that one of the only times that you guys would have played or potentially played together?
well, we played. So I think we only missed a week with that hammy. So my first game he didn't play, which was Collingwood at MCG. But the second game I played, we played together, and I sat on the bench for pretty much the whole game except for the last 5 minutes. So I remember running on, not thinking I'd get anywhere near the ball, and I think he did get it and kicked it backwards or sideways just to give me a kick. So, yeah, that was probably then the next game we played, I started on the bench, and then that's when he did his hamstring, and he was running off, and we tapped each other at the boundary because I came on for him. So, yeah, we didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
Sliding doors moment.
Yeah, it was. So.
And so then at the end of the year, you've ended up, not keeping your spot on the St Kilda. Did any other clubs show interest?
Well, I did actually get back in the team later that year.
Right.
So they've told me I was going to play again, and then unluckily I got stress fractures or diagnosed with them the Thursday night of training, the last training. So. And that put me out for the rest of the season. So from then I got delisted, and there was other clubs interested. I did get contact, but I actually did a pre-season a couple of years later at Collingwood.
Right.
At the start of 1997, actually. So I think that's when Danny Frawley, the late great Danny Frawley, he started his coaching career at Collingwood, and he got me out there.
Right.
But yeah,
I do vaguely remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a mini Norwood though. There was that many Norwood guys out there at Collingwood at the time.
Nothing wrong with that. That's how it should be. Yeah.
How were you told that St Kilda weren't requiring your services anymore? Was it a simple case of somebody coming to you?
My second year at St Kilda, I had Stan Elves as a coach.
Right.
So I remember it being a fair while after the end of the season. We'd been on our footy trip, and we got back, and fair enough, I got the call in to his office, and I knew it was going to be bad news straight away. So, and he let me know then, just because I had a few too many injuries, because I had osteitis pubis most of that season as well. So I missed a fair few games. So, yeah, I think they thought I was a bit injury prone and unreliable. So that was it.
And what happened? How did you arrive at the home of football, mate?
Yeah, so it was either, for me, go back to the VFA at the time, which I played at Frankston, but I didn't particularly enjoy my time at Frankston. So it was either I talked to Sandringham, the Zebras, over there, and then I had a fair bit of interest from over this way at South SA. So, and I guess got contacted by most clubs over here. So I had to make a choice on which one, because I hadn't really known anything about the SNFL at the time. So our recruiting manager at St Kilda at the time, John Beveridge, who's a close family friend, I sought him out for some advice, and he said which clubs had contacted you, and I told him, and he said, well, this club is a reliable club, and you can't go wrong if you go there. And I'd been in contact with Glenn Rosser a few times, and he'd really impressed me, and him and Todd Barabas.
Yes.
Recruiting
I'll make sure
guy.
I tag Todd on this when we do put it online.
Yeah. So they made the trip to Melbourne, and I think they dropped into a few of us at the time, and I was one, and I think including James Tyson and Paul McCormack and a couple of those guys. So, and I remember at the time, because it was the major draft in the AFL back then was like 2 weeks before the start of the season.
Yeah.
So, and if you didn't get picked up, it was like a mad rush.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Where to go. So, and usually, so Norwood rang me and said, "Oh, we'll fly over. You can have a look. We'll have a look at you, and then you can fly home and make a decision." And I remember at the time I just said to my mum, if I'm going to play, I'm going to just do it. So I told Glenn Rosser, "Well, I'm coming." He goes, "Okay, I'll book a flight." And he goes, "No, I said I'm driving over tomorrow to play for you." So, and he was a bit, we don't usually get that. So
yeah, no,
it was a bit of a risk on their behalf,
yep.
but I think it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, no, it certainly did.
And I actually got in earlier than the other guys that were recruited that year. So a lot of those guys didn't arrive till round 2 or 3, and I arrived the week before the start of the season. So I was lucky. Because Neil Craig,
yes,
my first coach, he didn't really take too warmly to new guys, especially from interstate. So I thought I would have to do my time in the reserves. But I was lucky enough that I got there for the last trial game and played the reserves, and I was lucky enough to get picked for my debut against Central Districts in round 1.
Yep.
You said you drove over. Did you have any accommodation, or did the club sort of say, "Look, we'll put you up here for a couple of weeks or a couple of players together"? How did that all play out?
I didn't really know. I just jumped in the car and hadn't really thought that far ahead. Being a young guy, 20 years old, is like, I'm just going to play footy and see you later, mum and dad. And arrived on the doorstep of the footy club, and Glenn's says, "Follow me, jump in your car." And then we drove up the parade to the top of the parade to Kensington Gardens, and I opened the door to an old falling down house and to an ex-Norwood player, Craig Binder.
Yes. His son, Tristan, his son's playing at the moment. Yep.
So I was lugged with him for a bit.
Jeez.
And then a few more arrived a bit after, so I got to live with some characters.
You would have been the responsible one just quietly in that household, Harves, too. Yes.
Well, there's some stories, but probably not appropriate.
Well, the time slot would might qualify.
We would. Who were those guys, if I can ask? We'll go down the rabbit hole here.
Well, okay. So Paul McCormack arrived a few weeks later, but he'd already teed up to live with a couple of other guys that were playing at North Adelaide at the time. But he couldn't get into that house for a month or so. So I lived with him for about a month. Yeah. Then when he moved out, Jason Miller moved in.
Yes.
So that was like very interesting living with Jace. Like my eyes were open to a lot of the world with those two guys. So
yes.
It was a great experience. Though,
could have been a good stable coming in and out of the household, I would have thought.
The door was swinging a bit. Yes. So. It was great though. Like fantastic guys. Craig Binder was playing down at Padthaway at the time with I think with Lester Ross and Simsy.
Stephen Sims.
They would drive down there, so they would pick him up because I don't think he had a license at the time. So it was great to meet a few of the older players as well. We had a few other guys dropping in through, like Andrew Zealand. So it was good. Then so Jason Miller, then Craig Binder, he moved out, and then in the start of my second season, Martin Heppel came over from Melbourne, and he moved in. So
sounds
that was very interesting too.
Sounds like a motley crew.
Another character there as well. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm great mates with Martin Heppel. So he we were both at St Kilda at.
That's right. He was.
And we got delisted. So we were both going to actually come over to Norwood at the same time, but he got picked up by Melbourne for another year. So and he got to Norwood and was like very unlucky because he did his knee.
A lot of injuries.
First, I think he came off the bench in his first game and kicked the goal within 30 seconds. Then in the next centre bounce, he did his knee. So, that was pretty much the end for him after that. So
a real motley crew there you were explaining, and I can see Malcolm's face here lighting up going, yeah, I can imagine what those guys were getting up to.
To say that Anthony would have been the very quiet one out of that living arrangement. I'll assure you on
fair
that.
call.
I definitely was, Malcolm. I definitely was.
Yes.
So obviously you arrive at Norwood, not knowing too much about Norwood, but you probably would have heard some names that would have been going around, like Gary McIntosh and a few players like that. What were your first thoughts stepping out and practicing and doing a bit of pre-season with those guys?
I had heard of Gary McIntosh because, Glenn had sent a few Red Legs reviews over, and I'd be flicking through those, and I said, I know that guy. He goes, I thought that's the guy from the international rules that knocked everyone out.
Yep.
And I thought he must have been about 6'5" and 120 kilo, but I got over and I saw the size of him and I thought, man, this guy's mad.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what a player though.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Incredible hands. Yep. The handball skill as good as anyone in the game, and obviously very comparable with Greg Williams, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most areas where he's underrated. I think most people saw him as a tough nut, but his skills were sublime.
Oh, and we probably out of Macca, you forget how good a bloody kick he was, because I think in some ways Macca actually, the one criticism you have, he actually probably over-handballed at times because he did have that lethal left leg as well.
Yeah, but he could handball at 30 metres.
It was incredible, wasn't it? So, in terms of, your career at Norwood, so 95, we were okay, and then, of course, 96. I'm still recovering from that prelim final. Nearly get out of the mental institution soon. Halves on that one.
Is that why we haven't had Scotty Hodges on the show yet?
So that, and that was really frustration. I remember after that there was probably a bit of anger, but a bit of frustration that we'd blown our chances a little bit, and there was a real steely resolve at the start of 97 is probably a fair way to put it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think after there wasn't a lot said after 96. We sort of everyone parted ways for a bit, and then when we did come back for pre-season, the start of 97, it was a feel like there's a feeling around the place really early on that this is for real. We're serious about this. So, and it's all started with I think because Jars played for us in that 96 final series after all his turmoil from the Crows.
Yeah. And
it didn't to his own expectations. He didn't perform to where he probably should have. So we just thought that he would retire and that was it. But he showed up and Stephen Rowe, the start of 97, and along with Macca, they set the tone for everyone for the whole pre-season. So, and we would train for 2 or 3 hours, and then Rowe and Jars would go for a 5-10K run straight after. So it was just having guys like that setting the tone that sort of towed everyone along.
And of course, there was a state game. I reckon it was in Canberra, and I think we had 8 players, and so that we dominated that year.
Yeah,
blew the second semi. I think the prelim final against Centrals, we were struggling. Let's be honest, Macca did contribute and came and Stewie Jew was causing a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
and that way.
And we thank Anthony Harvey there for his time. Obviously, like we do with most of our guests, we run a bit over time, but part one there, absolutely some fantastic reminiscing about his junior days and his involvement now with the Norwood Football Club.
Yeah, look, and that's one thing I should have covered with Harves on. Harves has been absolutely fantastic and played a huge part in the Redlegs website. So if you any Norwood supporter, Redlegs Museum, and then you can click on. He has been almost the brainchild of that with the Norwood History Committee, and it is widely regarded within footy circles as the best club website in the country. So, full thank you to Anthony and the Norwood History Committee for that. side of things.
Great to get Harves on, and as I said, we're going to split that interview up, and I'm really looking forward to it. And thank Anthony once again for his time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.